Jack, and unless there's another presentation, Gray, do you want to
Daryl's not here unless it's something about me.
Okay,
I'm taking over.
excellent, welcome. Switch hats to operational planning on WMAs then.
Okay, and this is just a fairly quick, informal update on a little bit of following what Director Carter gave us earlier and asked the commission to consider, and ultimately what you did, which is allow us to move forward implementing our strategic plan and using our strategic plan to guide what's going on in the future. And as the director said, we have the plan was written at a 30 to 50,000 foot level, but understanding that in order to be able to touch the ground and do the things that we really need to do, there's going to have to be something in between those. And ultimately the operational plans are what are going to drive how we get business done. And so there's a guiding document, the strategic plan, and then there's going to be some, how do we get our boots dirty? How do we really take care of our species and our habitats? And that's where we're going with these operational plans. There's a couple of different kinds of plans that are going on. We have some specific, you all have been made aware of the quail plan. And so we have a quail management plan, a quail operational plan, I think that everyone's seen. We'll see some additional plans along those lines in a species perspective. And then we're also, from a habitat perspective, going to be pushing out, and especially from our WMAs, operational plans for our WMAs. And we want to make sure everybody's clear on what these plans are going to do and what the intent of these plans are, and how we, in a very gross overview, how we intend to get these plans put on the ground. And the thing to remember on all of these, I guess every one of it, and I want to focus right now on WMA plans, and so really on our habitat plans. And make sure we're all on the same page with that. I think our species plans kind of speak for themselves, and I think you've been made aware of a lot of those. The big thing on our WMAs is the intent to have a WMA plan for every, or a operational plan for every one of our WMAs. So we start acting with some consistency. John Gregory and others have been working on some model documents that will give us some consistency between WMA plans and make sure we're all considering the issues on those. I think most of those are near completion or completed, and as we now move forward with the strategic plan and our WMA plans start to be written and are operational, we can start using those to guide the direction of each of these plans. Some of the main drivers when we're starting to talk about habitat plans that are obviously important to the agency are cost of what's going on out there, and then how do these plans fit within our strategic plan. And so driving on those two things, obviously cost is any kind of consideration, and we believe there's opportunity. The agency believes there's opportunities to streamline, make more efficient, however you want to think about things, getting habitat put on the ground, and getting the operation, getting the standard operation of the WMAs continued for what the expectation is for those local areas and our constituents that are using those areas. But using like native warm season grasses, it's not cheap to do a native warm season grass, but it may be cheaper, to burn and disc those fields rather than have a continuous, seeding, herbiciding, pesticiding, all of those other kinds of things. And so if there is opportunity, the point being, if there is opportunity to make those types of changes, it makes sense that we would investigate those and see how they fit within the strategic plan as far as the habitat needs and those types of things. And so essentially, I think that one of the goals is to have a little bit of an inward look on those costs and see where we can meet habitat and population goals and reduce cost if there are possibilities for that. Second part of that is obviously we need these operational plans to exist within the framework of our strategic plan. And so, and in doing that, as Director Carter said, these are habitat. Our strategic plan is largely a habitat-based plan. And so and from the habitat component of that, the strategic plan looks to guidance for other regional plans, our joint venture plans that are very habitat-based that kind of tell us where habitat should be. If you're in this portion of Tennessee, we shouldn't be putting, and we don't do this, but there's a terribly bad example on the top of, the Cherokee National Forest. We should not be putting, worrying about quail habitat in an island of trees. It's just, we need to be putting habitats in the appropriate location for where they should be and make sure they fit in those national plans. And so the importance of that is to make sure we have everything that's scalable. What's going on our WMAs matches what's happening on our strategic plan level, which matches what's going on the regional and national level. So everything, if we're doing something on a WMA, it has scalable goals. It makes sense on all levels. And so there's a great intent to work on those. And the other part of this is, as I mentioned, is the objectives for each and every WMA are going to be unique for where that WMA sits, what kind of habitats surround it, the juxtaposition of all of those habitats, and what the ultimate intent of that habitat, of that WMA may be. So with those things in mind, we have those two primary drivers as far as sort of an overarching, but the things that we cannot forget, and this is where a lot of people are start to get worried, is that these plans can't be written in a vacuum, that we have to consider not only the greater good of the habitats and the species, but we also have to consider, dove fields and waterfowl areas that are highly expensive and high input. And so in those kinds of areas, we must, can be considered. And so, and all of these plans are going to be written with TWRA personnel involved at all levels. So, WMA plans will involve the WA manager, involve the regional managers, and involve statewide coordination so we can make sure we have consistency in these plans. And so, and ultimately, we have guidance, input from all levels to make sure we have local knowledge that tells us what the constituencies want, and we have, regional knowledge that provides consistency within that region, within that habitat type, and then statewide coordination that allows, make sure, there's some degree of consistency across the state on how all these plans are written. So I guess in a nutshell, I'm trying to make sure I'm reading through my notes here. Make sure we have linkages to the other plans. So overall, I think what we're going to see is there's going to be some changes on some of our WMAs. I think some WMAs may start looking a little bit different, and so we may start seeing some habitat that is not familiar, and so, quail is a great example, and so everybody wants these quail areas, and we talk about quail habitat. Well, quail habitat's a little bit ugly, and I think there's, in order to have a good 3 to 5 year old field early successional habitat, we're going to have to make sure our users understand that's a good thing, that's a positive thing, and that these kind of fundamental changes, if you want to do a habitat-based plan, if you really want to do something good for some of these species, your expectations may have to change a little bit. And so there's going to be some degree of education on that and understanding that this is a positive thing for our WMAs. And so, but the other part of that is yes, they may look different, but also we can't forget what got us there. And there's some of these issues that we just can never step away from. We have to understand what the local concerns are, what the local needs, expectations, the roles of that WMA. All of those have to be wrapped up into one big part of this plan and not ignore what's happening. So the dove fields and the waterfowl management areas and any other special need on those WMAs must continue to be considered. But I hope we see some consistency in how we implement some of these habitat-based plans across all of our WMAs, being very positive, and hopefully the hunters will support everything that we're doing on that. And I think they'll see a whole lot more animals in some instances, but we'll have to see as we go forward. And on that, that's just a quick kind of like I said, very brief update on what these operational plans that should be rolling out now that the strategic plan is done. We'll see these operational plans for the WMAs start to pop up more regularly, and we'll take it on as a more strategic step forward in how we're doing business.
Commissioner Cannon, then Commissioner Cox.
Gray, I appreciate it. I'm looking forward to this, and I appreciate in particular one of the comments you made, and that is getting the constituent input. The thing I would ask is that we have a plan for that, and that I would ask us to think outside our maybe traditional box of just a public comment period that everything funnels into here, but that it gives the people, at least at the regional level, a chance to interact with the regional staff, before we then have public comment on the overall policy. You know, we do need to listen, and I applaud you all for including that component. I hope it can be more localized, and I just ask you to think outside the box.
Oh, sorry, go ahead.
And as part of that, I think the commissioners for those regions would like to be a part of that as well, be a part of that listening as well. Because we get hit at meetings on different things that, hey, we're hearing this rumbling, that. And the fact that you all are being proactive in this constituent input, I applaud, and I look forward to seeing how that's going to play out.
And let me make sure, we don't have a formal process for that right now. I think the point being, we need to make sure what's happening on the local level is considered, and I want to make sure when, in presenting this from a state perspective, that everybody understands we can't forget that level. How we roll that out, how we work with the regional folks will be an interesting process, but I think it's going to be terribly important, as you say, to understand the role of that WMA, those particular lands within that community. But hopefully we'll get a regional perspective on that, and if we need to go to a public need for that, or public input, then we can do that as well.
Well, we're saying we're going to listen to the constituents, and I think there needs to be a plan for how we're going to do that. That is equally as important as the plan that this thing's going to generate.
Okay.
And the fact that you've identified that is something that we're going to be focusing on, I think, is super.
Okay.
So, thank you.
Commissioner Cox?
Mine is comment would be along the same line. You know, we are in each of our districts represent those constituents and have a decent idea about what the WMAs provide and what they kind of would like to see. So I would like to see, as Commissioner Cannon said, before the plan would have to be amended at this body. I'd rather see during the planning process, I'd like to know what the objective is for Wolf River. And not from the technical part, but just what, if it's changing from quail to whatever, I'd like to know what that is prospected to be. And, you know, perhaps have comments or input or whatever. So I'm seconding what Harold said.
I think that's a fair assumption. I think we'll have to, it's something we haven't considered, I mean, as far as a formal comment process, but we're also have to say a little bit in our infancy in where we're going with this, other than having some guiding documents that kind of give us an idea of the format and info we want. But I think going forward, if we need to move into a public comment period for each of these, I think there's logic to that thought.
Let me just, forgive me for talking so much, but I believe in this a lot. When we had a state DU convention in Jackson, and our Region 1 staff interacted with the public and showed them what was going on, I've had people continue, even this year, saying, we get it. We get it. And I think that the interaction that we have with the public, with the right setting, and it doesn't need to be a turkey shoot. With us, it's the turkeys, okay? I've been in those kind of meetings. But with the right setting of explaining what we're doing and then listening, I think we may be floored at some of the ideas that will come from that, and quite frankly, better relationships that maybe we aren't out here, but we're we're amongst them and a part of them. I think that's just good stuff that can happen. I'm not saying it very well, but I strongly encourage that.
Okay, sounds good. All right, thank you.
Thank you very much. And with that, Mr. Chairman, turn back to you.
All right, thank you, Commissioner Woodson. At this time, we'll take a 10-minute break. We will start back at 10:35 sharp.